Hello YouTube, I'm up here in Cuyuna land, the sun is shining, it is September, such a great time of year, staying in my trailer. I'm thinking about my race at the Schwamigan 40 in a couple of days, this Saturday. And I have another announcement to make. It might be a little bit of a shocker, but the reality is the Rocky Mountain that I recently purchased just wasn't working out, and so I decided I'm gonna not ride it anymore because I want to keep it relatively new. And so I've only ridden it like 3 times, and then I'm gonna sell it. So I'll give you those reasons in just a minute, but let me show you what I ended up doing instead. Yep, that is a Salsa Rustler 27.5 wheel. It's got 2.6 tires on it, and notice that it doesn't look brand new. Well, it's a slightly used bike. It is a 2021 model, and I got a good deal on it. I actually test rode this bike. I took it on the trails up here in Cuyuna. I took it on Wednesday. I rode it. I didn't do any video of it because I was kind of trying to figure things out, and I ended up just loving this bike. Couple of things about it, which I'm kind of going back on my word on some of this, is if you notice, this is not aluminum, this is carbon, and I swore that I wouldn't ride a carbon frame. But I'm kind of at this point where I don't really have a lot of choices. So I'm going to just have to accept the carbon frame for what it is. And the people I've been talking to, they keep telling me carbon's fine, carbon's fine, carbon's fine, even though I had a carbon frame before and it cracked. And so I've been kind of anti-carbon ever since. But Salsa backs these frames 100%. As long as I keep an eye on it and it's not going to break or crack in a catastrophic way to where I would end up getting hurt, I'll be fine. And that would be anywhere basically up in here. And so I inspected it as pretty solid, and I'll just make sure I keep an eye on that. The chainstays are aluminum, so those are durable, and that's actually a part that can more easily break, like if you hit it on a rock or something like that. So they actually did their thinking, and I'm thinking this is carbon. Yeah, I think that's carbon. So aluminum chainstays, everything else is carbon. So they put the aluminum where it really needed to be, so if you hit a rock or something like that, it won't, snap back there, because I have actually seen a few carbon frames break back there from just that, like somebody crashing or something and that hitting a rock. That being said, Salsa backs these. I actually know the people that actually designed it, Thor being one of them. They got that split pivot suspension, and he's a former BMXer. He raced a lot. He's a really good rider, and he's working over there at Quality Bicycle Products, and he's just phenomenal rider, and he actually had a lot of input in how this bike was designed. So me being a BMXer, I can definitely feel his input in this bike. So some of the things about this bike that I really like is the front end comes up quite a bit easier than any other full suspension bike I've ridden. The first time I tried this, I was actually able to manual it, like just pop in and hold it. That's something that's been hard for me to do on a full suspension bike. I can do it on that bike, I can do it on my BMX bikes, but I struggled with a full suspension bike. This bike, I can actually manual it. I was quite impressed with that. And it's snappy, it's quick. It's not an extremely slack head angle, which I also like, because I'm just not a big fan of this super slack head angle trend that's going on right now. If you're out west and you're bombing down the sides of mountains, I get it. But if you're anywhere else in the country or world, these, 63, 64, even 65-degree head angles make absolutely no sense. It's like they designed that head angle for one purpose only, and then you have to deal with it for all the other purposes of riding a bike. And yeah, you can ride a bike with a slack head angle, but it's, when you're cornering and when you're diving into turns and things like that, it's more effort. You got to lean the bike more. You got to push it. And just about every rider that I hear on YouTube that talks about this says exactly that. So don't tell me that that's not the case. It's like slack head angle is harder to maneuver in the tight sections and the tight stuff. And up here in the upper Midwest of the United States, that's what the trails are. They're tighter, twistier trails. There's a few exceptions. There's Duluth, things like that. For the most part, you don't really need a super laid back slack head angle. And this bike is designed by Minnesotans, and so it really fits this terrain and these kind of trails, which are awesome. Minnesota, if you don't know, is becoming one of the premier mountain bike destinations in the country, if not the world. It's like Bentonville #2 or whatever you want to call it. Bentonville has become a really good destination. I love that place. And up here in Minnesota, we're not as tightly compact, where all the trails are in one place. But if you travel around, you go in the city, Twin Cities, there's awesome trails there. You get up here in Cuyuna, there's awesome trails. Redhead, there's awesome trails. Tioga is awesome trails. Duluth, there's awesome trails. Then you just go across the border into Wisconsin, where I'm going to be this weekend. Awesome trails. So this area of the country, we don't have mountains, but that doesn't mean we don't have kick butt trails. They are so awesome, and this bike is going to do it all for me. So that's what I have to say about that. I will tell you what was going on with the Rocky Mountain that I just couldn't resolve, and why I decided to make this switch and kind of keep the Rocky Mountain in new condition so I can sell it, and the next owner can enjoy it more in a new state rather than waiting until I beat the living crap out of it, right? So the biggest issue I couldn't resolve is the pedals kept hitting the ground unexpectedly when I would least expect it. And I actually rode this Rustler like literally within an hour after I rode the Rocky Mountain on the exact same trails. And I didn't have the pedals hit the ground at all unexpectedly. Yes, there's the expected times when I know my pedal's gonna hit, and I just did a video on how to avoid that with ratcheting and all that. But I got an extra volume spacer added to the shock. I pumped the shock up, but then it was really stiff riding. And I even adjusted that Ride 9 adjustment to the higher bottom bracket setting. And my pedals still, in certain turns and corners or going over certain things, if I was pedaling, my pedal would hit, and it was something where my pedal doesn't normally hit when I'm riding my other bikes, whether it was my Ripmo, whether it's my Esker, and certainly this Rustler didn't hit. So that was a big issue for me, because that's, in my opinion, dangerous. I don't want to have my pedal unexpectedly hit. Reasons for that, I think the bike's fine. I think maybe the Rocky Mountain was anticipating that it would be a lighter rider on that bike, or a rider that isn't as aggressive as I am. They probably, set it up, whether it be the rear shock or whatever. So a lighter rider will have no problem with that bike. But somebody that's 190, sometimes pushing 200, I'm always in between there somewhere. Too much weight. I compress it too easily. I even had the sag at like 25%, and I was still compressing too much in certain areas of the trail. So it's definitely a bike for a lighter person, especially with the 27 wheels. I think the other issue is just that. I think Rocky Mountain designed this bike around a 29-inch wheel, and then they added this 27.5 option to it. I don't think they really thought about the bottom bracket height issue, because yes, you can take a 29er and put 27.5 wheels on it, but you're going to lower the entire bike, and then your pedals are going to be closer. That being said, there are some riders out there, especially if they are doing a lot more downhill stuff, that love lower bottom brackets, because a lower bottom bracket height gives you more stability and stuff like that overall, especially at speed. So it doesn't mean the Rocky Mountain Instinct is a bad bike. It just means it wasn't working out for me. So I'm just going to put that out there, because it's not a criticism on the bike. It's just an issue that I was having with it, and I couldn't get over it. And so I chose to move on right away rather than continuing down that path and spending a bunch of money on that bike when it really wasn't working out for me. So I'm pretty stoked on the Salsa. That is a sweet bike. So this will be the bike I ride for the next year or so, in the full suspension category anyway. So expect to hear more on this. I love it. I've ridden it. I know it's going to work out for me, and that's the most important part. My lesson learned is that I can't really buy a bike unless I actually am able to get it out on the trails first before I purchase it. Whether that means I have to go to a demo with one of the bike companies or whatever that is, because bike shops certainly aren't going to let you take their bike out on the trails and trash it, because then it loses value, right? So they can't do that. They can really only let you pedal around the parking lot and do a couple wheelies and things like that. So, which the Rocky Mountain felt great in that aspect. So, and you know, I did a couple videos with it, and you'll hear my commentary on that. The Ride 9 works really great too. It actually functions and does what they say it does. So anyway, that's my big announcement for today. I gotta finish work. This is my lunch break, and I need to pack up and head to Hayward, Wisconsin. Big Schwamigan 40 race this weekend. I will be doing chesty footage, or I might actually do helmet footage. I haven't really decided yet, but I might do helmet footage for that, just so I have more air and less crap on my body, because I'm actually going to try to push myself. So, all right. Really appreciate your support from my channel. Thanks for watching. Peace.